Behold, a chat stream that won't wake the kids. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka Multimedia Jay. 10:20 at night at the Geek House on a weekday. That's how you know that I'm off work this week. I'm drifting back towards my old hours, but I assure you I will not be doing things in the AM hours like I used to. Things will get... As a matter of fact, this will be one of the few streams that I do as well. Who do we have? We have Dan here. That's cool. That is Dan here. So yeah, that's cool. Let's see. Let's see if... Nah, I don't want to have to put that in the description. Either way, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about tripping Google speakers already. Ding! There we go. Let's actually get to talking about some stuff. So yeah, this sucks. You probably hear it in the wheezing. Yeah, I shouldn't do that too much. Yeah, so as you can guess, from the stuff I've been saying on the community page, yeah, where do we even begin with that? Yeah, so I'm getting over pneumonia. Oh, man. So it's been hot and dry here in Gannett. That's why I disappeared, and that's why, as much as I've had time off from work and time to collect my thoughts and do stuff, I haven't done anything. It's strange when you start wondering if you'll ever feel normal again and spending most of your days zonked out, and you really know that something's wrong when you're too tired to even play games. You're like, you know, I don't want to actually put in the effort to actually hit buttons on a controller or anything. I just want to sit back and zonk out to something like Nothing Forever, which is turning into quite the chill stream nowadays. Twitch.tv / Watch Me Forever. The AI generated Seinfeld pastiche. I've been falling asleep to that at night. That's why it's going to be so sad when I get that little Twitch thing that tells me, you know, who I've been watching, and an AI show is in the #1 spot. Dan says I had an upper respiratory infection. All I could do was sleep. This is a lower respiratory infection. This is a lower respiratory infection. I developed pneumonia in the base of one of my lungs. Sucked. Because, let me see how I'm doing. Let me see how I'm doing with the oximeter here. Like my dad says, getting old sucks. I don't know if I've even had pneumonia before. I just know pneumonia at 96 instead of 97. So, not quite as... Still a little congested. But, my dad, the normal range for people is like 94 to 100, though, so I don't need to go, you know, all hypochondriac-y about that crap. But I only knew pneumonia as something that, you know, put old people in the hospital. So I'm like, well, if I'm over 40, I'm technically old, so gotta start worrying about that. Got a spot from one of those Superman bandages they put on my arm as I actually got spooked into the hospital. All right. The Nothing Forever has a YouTube channel now, says Dan, but I bet they're not multi-streaming. I think they're partnered. I really think Nothing Forever is sabotaging itself by not being on YouTube at this point. So they danced with the purple snake and they got locked into Twitch, who is and they have to be hypersensitive and boring to an extent because of Twitch being... Look, let me just say one thing, especially with Devin Nash having talked about this with his discussion on Kick lately. Pardon the coconut head, by the way. I also buzzed my hair down to summer levels because of the fevers that I've had for days on end. So I'm a little rounder on the top than I'd like to be. Yeah, but as long as I'm not doing Charlie Brown or anything. Good grief. Either way, so... One of the biggest problems with multi-streaming is that Twitch is more sensitive than YouTube is. There's things you get banned for on Twitch you don't get banned for on YouTube. So if you multi-stream, you have to cater everything to the most sensitive platform, which many times is going to be Twitch. So you don't really gain anything. I mean, if you want to be more expressive creatively or even play certain games without putting your account at risk, like Civil War games that actually show the Confederate flag to be historically accurate, that's considered a hate symbol on Twitch. So... You know, it's like, even if you're doing the historical thing, YouTube, at least in their ad-friendly guidelines, puts in, like, rules regarding historical and educational context, but Twitch is just full-on overly sensitive wokester about it, which, I mean, little company out of California, I'm not really surprised. Either way, look, the thing is, I make fun of people that get hypersensitive about everything because overall, in the long term, they're a waste of time. Them and all their stupid little pet causes trying to rile you up when you have your own problems to worry about. I don't agree with that crap. I don't agree with that crap. And that's something you'll learn if you get any kind of formal business background. You got to stay focused. If you're the kind of person that gets thrown off by every little thing that comes along, you will not be as successful as the person that stays focused and gets things done and doesn't get lost in the weeds. It's just basic businessy type stuff. Either way, let's get off of this sensitivity discussion crap. Let's talk about what happened with the pneumonia. So, title of the stream is I am a gamer first and a streamer second, which I guess for people that have been following along probably explains the main thing I want to talk about regarding the multimedia meta tonight. But we'll see if we even get to it. If I'm too tired, we'll just throw it in at the end. Got a bunch of controllers over here to talk about. Got a bunch of other things to talk about. And of course, this time off to just relax and try and regain some semblance of normalcy nowadays has given me plenty of time to think about stuff. All right, so here's how the whole pneumonia thing went down. Last week, well, we had abnormally hot and dry weather, which led to extra crap in the air, including incredibly high grass pollen. I tend to have some allergies to airborne stuff like pet dander or dust mites or dust and smoke and crap like that. Pollen, I don't know if it really bothers me very much. Sometimes it depends on what specifically it is. I think I could sniff flowers all day and not have any issues, but there's certain other airborne stuff that gets me all messed up. So I don't mean high. I just mean like, allergy crap. So, oh man, I'm even more of a cartoon character than usual because of this freaking pneumonia. Anyway. So yeah, I start getting under the weather and I'm like, oh crap, must be allergies, right? Well, that starts getting a bit worse than what I'd normally get with allergies. So I'm like, well, I guess this is my first cold, regular cold since getting COVID. Because I started getting symptoms similar to COVID, so I used up the rest of my COVID tests swabbing my nose 3 times in a row, negative, 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 and I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Every day I kept getting worse. It doesn't happen with colds. I usually get hit with the symptoms, fever lasts a day, and I just recover afterwards. And I haven't really been the kind of person in a long time to have anything just keep getting worse for several days on end. So I got the oximeters largely. This is the KPOW one, which I understand is really accurate compared to some of the other stuff sold on Amazon. My doctor's office uses these too, so, oh, cool. All this talking got me up to 97 instead of 96, so get the air moving. Oh, no, down to 96. The little details like that don't matter, and these things can be off by as much as 5% anyways. So, depending on how crappy they are, what brand you buy. But I basically know my baseline from the numbers. So they say, yeah, get one of these. If it drops too low, you got to go to the hospital. So I've had these around in case I ever got one of the nastier forms of COVID that dropped your blood oxygen. So catch it before it did any real damage. So I've become familiar with those. I also have a thermometer that's pretty fast as well in spotting fevers and everything. Thursday, I get a fever, and what's normally 96, 97 on this thing drops down to 90 to 92. In the 80s, when you hit the 80s, you have to go to the hospital. When you hit the 80s, you got to go to the hospital and get some more air in you, because it's go too far below 89, you start running the risk of damaging your brain and damaging organs. It's also one of the conversations about sleep apnea too, is if you stop sleeping in the middle of the night when you're asleep, you stop breathing in the middle of the night when you're asleep, how low do you go and what kind of damage can it do and how long does it last? So you have apneas where you stop breathing for whatever reason, and the hypopneas where your breathing gets really shallow. You don't get a lot of oxygen and your sleep quality degrades So you have that kind of garbage going on. But either way, Thursday. So on Thursday, I'm a bit suspicious if it's not COVID that it could be pneumonia. I'm looking up the symptoms. They're lining up more and more with pneumonia. Then I start seeing the number on this thing drop, which I've got my thumb in here, so it's probably going to be weird. Oh, cool. 97.79. That's actually good for 98.80. That's good for not getting any exercise for several days. So not totally out of shape yet. But anyways, this is it's not going to focus no matter what because I manually focus that camera. But it's 98 now, which is really good. pretty normal for me. But I see it at like 90, 91, 92. And I find out I'm getting really, really winded way too easily. So I took one of these with me because I was going to maybe monitor at work if I start getting lightheaded or something. I get into the parking lot. Why are Google speakers so sensitive nowadays? The thing's telling me what a parking lot is now. Shut up. How come me talking over here sounds like the trigger words for those? I'm going to pull the plug on that bedroom speaker. It's been acting weird lately. So I take one of these to work. And in the parking lot, which is probably why it thought I was asking what a parking lot was, I have a 90 after driving. I'm like, let's check it when I get to the parking lot. 90. Like, oh, crap. And then it creeps up to 91, 92, and then it creeps up the rest of the way. But bottom line, I mean, I can put this on now. It comes in at like 96 and goes to 97. So blood oxygen was starting to drop. I go in, and I'm just trying to put my lunchbox in the fridge. I hope it didn't get thrown out on Friday because I haven't been in. It's just had 2 peanut butter sandwiches in it, which are probably turning to cardboard right now. But the 2 sodas I had should be fine. I'll have to inquire with... I'll have to inquire as to whether they were thrown out. Maybe I have to buy another lunchbox. I don't know. Either way. So I go in and I'm winded after putting my lunchbox in the fridge in the break room. Like, no. I go up. The manager of the part of the building I'm in now is working the front desk because where our security person's missing or whatever. And I'm like, put me on the outs list. I'm going to the hospital. Like, what for? I said, something's not right. Blood oxygen's low and I'm getting winded way too easily. It's not COVID, but whatever it is nastier than most of the other stuff I get. I go there. They have a shotgun PCR test that tests for COVID, influenza, and RSV all with one swab. So I get tested. Everything turns up negative. I don't know if I even had RSV before. So I was hoping it wasn't RSV or something. But whatever this was hitting me harder than COVID. So I actually also had a fever. I walked out on Wednesday evening feeling like I'd been smacked in the head by a 2x4, but I thought that could have just been, pollen or something. I thought that would just be pollen or the weather was getting hot, something like that. Then Thursday, just no. So, and because of COVID, I don't have any sick time for the year. COVID nukes your sick time whenever you get it because you have to isolate for 5 days. You only get 5 days a year. And apparently, I've learned from some of the people I've talked to dealing with this pneumonia that other businesses have this going on as well. There's other businesses where, COVID jinxes your sick time for the year. Now you got to do leaves of absence for everything the rest of the time. But hey, if you're not the kind of person that plays hooky with your sick time and uses it to go to the beach or anything, which I'm not, it shouldn't even be an issue. I just don't want to get fired because of a run of bad luck or some paperwork issue, especially with stuff like absence management getting outsourced to various companies these days. Keep the drinks handy. I probably should stay hydrated while trying to do this stuff. This is probably the first time I've been able to do something like this. I hope I don't sound too rough. I'm sure I will. You really can't I almost said microwave. You really can't microphone effect your way out of being congested. So yeah, on Thursday, go in. I'm winded after putting the lunchbox in the fridge. And so I'm like, nope, put me on the outs list. I'm going to the hospital. Go there, test negative with their shotgun test. Now, let's do a chest x-ray because I said I was suspicious that it was pneumonia because of something that happened to one of my cousins. So my family has had a lot of problems with COVID. That's one of the reasons why I've been watching the numbers and supporting actually fighting the virus instead of giving into it and, letting it run wild and stuff like that. Scientists are actually still working on whether or not too many infections has an effect on you similar to AIDS, where it damages your immune system because you got clobbered too many times. Fortunately, from what I'm hearing, vaccination reduces that effect. So who knows? We just got to get this darn thing under control. All this, we're going to live with it. Yeah, but we don't want to take out a chunk of the population trying to do so. That's not very American. We usually go to war with countries where the folks in charge find ways of killing large swaths of their own people. So that's not very patriotic now, is it? So, Either way, yeah. So I was suspicious because of pneumonia because of one of my cousins had a bout with COVID and then wound up in the hospital with post-COVID pneumonia a month later. One of the known after effects and complications of a COVID infection is being prone to something like pneumonia or secondary infections afterwards, or some other secondary health conditions. Diabetes is one of them, puts you at higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes, as well as, blood clots and stuff along those lines. So when you think you're done with COVID, you're never really done. And this was the second time I'd had it. So I was like, is there any cumulative damage? The second time I had COVID was a drop in a bucket, but I'm never going to think I'm out of the woods. I think every infection is bad and makes things worse until I hear otherwise. It's like they say in business when some big change is coming up and they say, until XYZ happens, it is business as usual. No, it's same thing too. Until the scientists complete their research and find out the extent of the damage of multiple COVID infections, I'm going to assume that too many is basically chunks away your health, so to speak, until you're immunocompromised essentially, and whatever you get clobbers you harder until it becomes, a problem similar to having AIDS. But we'll let science work that one out. In the meantime, what can we control? Try not to get the darn thing. And in Connecticut right now, as well as most of the Northeast, it's actually very, very nice for COVID right now. XBB.1.5 is blown over, and everything else going around is XBB, including that 116 variant. So you have to wonder how close is the spike protein on that versus XBB.1.5, which is the latest thing to make the rounds. I'm sure the next annual booster for COVID is going to target specifically XBB.1.5, if not XBB.1, 116 that I just said? I have to look it up. A little bit of brain fog from this pneumonia crap too. So, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this current XBB that's gaining steam right now, or XBB.1.5, is the target of the next booster, so that the bivalent component of it targets a very recent variant of sorts. Kind of like how last year's targeted BA.5, which was a little past its prime, but still pretty current back then. So, but if everything going around is XBB, I hope it's close enough that, it can start running into walls with trying to get around very much, and we can stop having these outbreaks and having to nuke all your sick time because somebody didn't want to wear a mask or something stupid like that. But all right, so my family's had a lot of problems with COVID. One of the reasons why I'm super paranoid about it, about Scotsman Josh, my cousin. He passed away from the Delta variant in September of 2021 around Labor Day. The shadow of what happened to him kind of hung over me because the Delta variant was more of a lower respiratory infection. Today's Omicron descended variants are more upper respiratory, so that's why they're not doing the kind of damage they used to do to people. Still some other risks like long COVID and cardiovascular crap that you got to worry about, as well as other possible complications of having had this thing and other stuff like that. But so my cousin Scotsman Josh, he died of the Delta variant September 2021. Let's see here. There was another friend of the family. My aunt wound up widowed because her husband, who had a few underlying conditions and was very up there in years and smoked his whole life, they got it from she screamed about the vaccine sucks, blah, 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 until she lost her husband to it. Now suddenly she wanted everyone to get vaccinated. She's the hysterical aunt that I don't even talk with at all. There's a lot of people in my family that basically outed themselves as completely nuts with the pandemic disinformation and everything like that. And I really don't, if I wouldn't associate with people like that in real life, call me a millennial for this. If I wouldn't associate with those people in real life, being in my family and being like that does not give you a free pass. I mean, I will prefer Friendsgiving over Thanksgiving. That's just the way it is. I don't believe in giving people a free pass for bad stuff just because they're family. That's nepotism. That's favoritism. That's no way to live your life. Like, why don't you look past the differences and just because it's like, because being related is just one thing that you might have in common with somebody. But if you have nothing else in common, what's the point? Plus, they do it to me too. There's people in my family that won't talk to me because I'm too liberal for their taste because I'm from New England, or I'm not as off the deep end Trump nut as them. I've there's people I don't talk to because I never got anything but negative stuff from them. Even when I tried to be in touch, it was always negative from them all the time. Like, hey, like you want to actually talk to any of your relatives, all your big supporters of traditional family values and whatnot, but you want to blow off any cousin that's not 100% like you. Yeah, screw you. Fake. Jumping on a soapbox and then not following through. Whatever, man. Still sore from all the coughing, so let's not do ow, too much of that if we can help it. Yeah. Coughing hurts and sneezing hurts. That's how messed up things were until the fever broke. I was able to break the fever several days with medication, but it always came back in the evening until the wee hours of the morning today. So the fever is gone. I gotta get everything else. Oh. All right. Sounds like I'm doing coke over here, like, no kidding. What is? I've been watching too many videos about Vice City. I've been getting back into some old Grand Theft Auto games, and Vice City was kind of the big one for me back in college. And when I built the Silver Bullet, and I was like, I got a better game than the people that play it on PS2. But we'll get to that when we get to talking about the controllers and stuff. I think the main discussion today would be worth which one is that? That the bedroom speaker? I'm going to pull the plug on that thing. It screws up, it drops Wi-Fi, and it trips when I'm saying completely unrelated sounding things. Stupid. Of course, I could fix this.
Sorry, I can't control the volume on groups of speakers. You'll need to set each device's volume separately. Or you can also do that in the Google Home app.
Get the phone. Shut up. Surprised not playing something on Pandora. I can't change the volume of all the speakers at once. They wonder why Amazon's kicking their ass. Open up the app. Can I even see? Come on. Stupid. Hey, there's all this new stuff. Shut up. Don't gobble up CPU cycles. I just want to turn down the volume on everything. Yeah, I can mute everything. Just want to turn down the volume on all these speakers to 0. I don't want to. If they're going to trip for no intelligent reason, just turn everything down. There. Now they can chatter away all they freaking want. Hey. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I still hear it a little, like it's whispering. Freaking Google speakers. I understand the business unit responsible for Google speakers is not doing very well. But I could always hit remove device, which will actually kick them off the network. Or I could shut off the network so they won't actually work. One of those two. Let's see. Shooby-dooby-doo. This is like notifications from the last 12 hours. All right, close that down. Enough of that phone crap. We got a discussion to have here. Yeah, so Scotsman Josh lost his fight with the Delta variant. My aunt wound up widowed. I have another cousin. She worked in healthcare at the time. She got COVID from one of her patients in the pre-vaccine era, got slammed with it. Then a month later, she got slammed with pneumonia as one of the after effects. She got over COVID, and then a month later got slammed with pneumonia. Just one of the many complications where there's secondary or after effects or stuff like that, or like leftover virus somehow causes whatever, something along those lines. But I was like, oh yeah, 1 month later, pneumonia. I've heard of people getting pneumonia at the same time they had it, but also up to a little while afterwards. It's one of those things scientists are studying as well. So that's why I suspected that it might be pneumonia. Now, that's why I suspected it might be pneumonia when my symptoms started lining up. Plus, it's been about a month since the last time I actually had COVID, so I was very suspicious. And so once I saw the blood oxygen start dropping, That's when I went to the hospital about it, in case it kept going, because any further I would have needed oxygen or hospitalization. So fortunately, everything stabilized. They pumped me full of antibiotics, gave me a prescription for more, and said, "Oh, just take Tylenol, keep the fever under control, watch your oxygen, let us know if you have trouble breathing and stuff like that, and we'll send you on your way." So let my regular doctor know about it. He's been booked to heck too, so I guess there's other stuff going on. I guess there might be other stuff going around as well. There's also one of the ladies I work with. She vanished for a couple of days before I left. So I don't know, maybe she had this thing and I got it from her. Who knows? It's certainly no picnic for someone at my age, never mind somebody who's notably older. Got a lot of older folks getting ready to retire where I'm at right now in the building. So that's one of the reasons why I want to be paranoid about not going back too soon. I don't want to give this to somebody who's like, especially we have a couple of older folks that are going around wearing masks all the time. Could be COVID, could be they're paranoid, could be they didn't want to get the vaccine, could be anything. Could also be that they're fighting or recently fought cancer and they're immunocompromised. So you don't know. It's none of your business. It's really none of your business. You should just respect people for that. And it wouldn't be good if I gave this to somebody who was more sensitive to it. Because basically, it's settled in the same pattern. Same pattern, every symptom in the book, cold and flu-ish or something like that. Every respiratory symptom in the book, coughing and sneezing enough that coughing and sneezing start hurting, including pleurisy pain, which is when the center of your rib cage, the stuff that holds that together, starts getting inflamed and sore because you're doing this too much. So it's just... it just sucked. I wouldn't wish this crap on my worst enemy, and it hit me harder than COVID did either time. So, half hour in, that's my story. The fever just broke. The fever just broke wee hours the morning today. So, finally, the first time since that happened, well, I understand that pneumonia fevers can last up to a week as well. By the way, let's see, did I put everybody to sleep or something? Let me just say with regards to these chat streams, there's not going to be many of them. I'm working on a format for commentary videos, similar to when YouTubers make videos with streaming equipment. A lot of the people that watch these are watching them after the fact. So, and I don't want to keep arm wrestling against what streaming is good at. Dan's doing chores. Yeah, well, you're not the only one that puts streams on in the background. I do that with Nothing Forever. I also do it with video essays and longer YouTube videos, especially if I know the video component isn't anything too wild. Like if it's gaming footage or something, like me watching someone's commentary or retrospective of like an old Grand Theft Auto game. So yeah. That's why I've been zonking out in front of Forza as much as I have. I could hardly even do anything else. And ESO, yeah, I could wander around ESO if I really wanted to, but I picked up the Rally Adventure expansion for Forza, and I've completed the main story of this too. Hey, there's Logan. I guess I should probably, clear up everything up from the stream last go around too. So I watched a couple other streams after the fact where people are just playing the games together, including, some personalities that play like Fortnite. Also been watching a lot of Dr. Disrespect. And I don't know where I got this. I think I've been a little too biased by the Among Us streams that a lot of the big streamers are doing, where they turned it into impromptu entertainment. Because, I think they had to do that too. Like Pokimane, Sykkuno, Valkyrie, and the big names out on the West Coast playing Among Us when that game was a super big fad on Twitch. So I think Lily Pichu is in one of those too, but the big streamers, they're very good at extemporaneous speaking and on the fly, like entertainment, impromptu entertainment like that. But I was thinking about that afterwards and I was like, they probably did that because there's not much to Among Us. It's like, what is Among Us if everyone just sits there and doesn't say anything? It's a really, really basic quality game. It's almost like a Flash game from 20 years ago with its cartoony graphics and everything. No music, almost no sound effects, stuff along those lines. So yeah. Hey, that didn't hurt. That's an improvement. Coughing was hurting like hell this morning, so maybe I've rested long enough that some of the soreness is stopping. It only hurts some of the time when I still cough. So hopefully I didn't crack any ribs or anything like I did that one time with COVID where everything hurt for a couple of days, then I saw the bruise show up. It's like, oops, bruised a rib. You can get that when you cough too much or sneeze too much. So, anyways, but yeah, so that stream last go around was I thought it would be like that. But the truth of the matter is, I think we were kind of torn because we were both progressing, so to speak, through all the races in the DLC. That's not something I normally want to do because I want my main experience, my initial experience, what I paid for with these games to be the same way it's been all my life. I don't want to be streaming games I've never played before. Maybe do a playthrough later when I actually know what I'm doing, but it's something I've been thinking about, and it's why the title of the stream is what it is. So I want to just fly the flag that I'm a gamer first and a streamer second. So I picked up Hogwarts Legacy, and although it was super popular to stream the game when it first came out, I didn't stream it. Why? Because I decided to experience the game myself and have fun with it. I mean, it's basically a Skyrim level release. It's basically a Skyrim level release, so I didn't want some screwball morons on the internet to spoil that by like sending a hate raid in my chat or anything, or even just the difference between streaming a game and playing it the regular way, where you play a game the regular way, you sit back and relax, and you get to enjoy what you spent your money on. Who cares about, heck, shut the whole world out. It's just you in the game. Have some fun, unless you're doing multiplayer or something like Apex Legends or something. So that's the thing. Same thing too with games I haven't beaten yet, and I'm going through the backlog. I could do streams about them too, but truth of the matter is, if I take a game that's been sitting unopened on my shelf for years, and I make a stream of it, it's gonna sour my initial experience because streaming is fundamentally different than gaming. You're doing impromptu entertainment and commentary, and there are times when I watch myself afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, I did incredibly stupid stuff there because I was so distracted trying to have stream commentary and even just sitting at attention all the time versus being able to relax, just play however I want. There's a mental health thing that I keep seeing with Twitch streamers in particular, especially the big ones that go on Dr. K, where they're always complaining about how their mental health is like always going into the dumps. Some of it is because of Twitch nonsense. Some of it is because of Twitch culture nonsense. Some of it is because they're rich and spoiled. The rest of it is because streaming video games is fundamentally different than playing them the normal way. Amazing, this thing still works. Streaming video games is different than playing them the normal way. So they're taking what would have been, I mean, I know some of these people really are gamers. They were playing before they started streaming. They're trading the experience they would have gotten with a game when previously in all the previous years of their life with something else. And it's not the same, and it doesn't give them the same enjoyment. And they're wondering why things seem different. That's why they're different, because they're streaming games instead of playing them. Now, letting haters, trolls, or whatever, and the need to entertain an audience get in the way of enjoying the game. And in some cases, maybe they're looking dumber than they actually are, stupid, when they're playing the game, simply as a matter of that. So I realize we live in this wonderful world where consoles are coming with controllers that have share buttons on them. But just because you can push a button and go live doesn't mean you always have to. Just because your streaming gear is pretty easy to get, you can stream a high quality stream with some decent internet, doesn't mean you need to stream everything that you do. Same thing. What's this? I don't know. What's this Logan's talking about? I don't know if I'm going to stream TOTK or not because I want to release a stream. At the same time, a wide ring should preserve that first time experience to myself. Oh, wondering. Oh, autocorrect got to you, Logan. So here's what I was thinking. If you folks have ever seen Top Gear or you've ever seen some car channels on YouTube where guys are kind of ribbing each other with humor about cars and tinkering with stuff, Roadkill in particular is where I get a lot of inspiration from. Dave Freiberger and Mike Finnegan constantly ball busting each other about the cars they're driving. That's what I was thinking of for the Forza stream. They would kind of show off the kinds of cars and talk about our rationale and stuff, and then, maybe like race each other and stuff like that. But not actually just shut up and go through the game the normal way. I wasn't thinking that at all. I guess it just kind of ground to a halt with that sort of thing. I guess maybe what I assumed people knew, but maybe they don't. Anytime a game is sandboxy, I have a blast in any way. I have a blast with it. And it from the sandbox stuff. Let me just give you a history of that. When I was little and I got a Game Genie for the NES, I've since re-gotten an NES Game Genie in my retro collection over there. When I got Game Genie for the NES, I had Little Nemo the Dream Master, and I liked the second level, which is a flower garden, and the fourth level, which is a quiet night sea, an ocean level. They're both very pretty, relaxing levels for an 8-bit game, of course. But I used to imagine the flower garden level was so bright and cheery, including the music. I used to imagine actual like warm spring day out in a, field with some flowers and soft grass and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm sure that if that ever happened in real life, you'd get ticks all over you and you'd be plucking ticks the rest of the night. But I mean, in a perfect world we imagine as kids, like just going out, not a care in the world, having fun, things along those lines. So a lot of times I kind of fantasize about that while just running back and forth in the level. I wouldn't actually beat the level. I just run back and forth because I like the scenery. Then Night Sea was always quiet and blue and stuff like that. Check it out on NES, Little Nemo the Dream Master. And of course I had Game Genie, so I gave myself an infinite health cheat. I put in the infinite health code, and I just start on level 2, start on level 4, infinite health, and I just go around the level doing whatever. Like not even really playing the game, so to speak. It's one of the reasons why my stepmother would make fun of me going, play it right. I'm like, I did play it right before. But yeah, I'd use the infinite health code and I'd start on another level and I'd go out there and just do whatever. So that's how far back we're going with this. Did it in the Bugs Bunny birthday blowout too. Level 1, pretending bugs like lived in one of the things you can jump into, so to speak. It was all relaxed and pretty and stuff like that. So sandboxy stuff was a thing. Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Wave Race 64. Super Mario 64, I'd hang out in the castle because there was no music. It was literally just the nature sounds, which was new to someone like me going from Super Nintendo to N64. You start up, here's Mario in 3D in front of the castle. Yeah, it's got the limitations of the technology of its day, but you hear birds chirping and the waterfall going, and you just stop. Don't even play the game. Just enjoy the scenery. I even did that with Pilot Wings 64, which was kind of a glorified tech demo, kind of like the original Pilot Wings on the SNES. I'd use, I'd land the rocket pack, and I'd start on a rocket pack mission. I'd fly to a gas station, which gave you full fuel, and then I'd fly around the map. Like if it was little ow, like if it was little states or something. And I just fly around taking the ambient sounds, stuff like that. And then college, became a PC gamer, PS2 era. Did that with Grand Theft Auto 3, and then Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Skipped San Andreas because I'd gotten into Morrowind at the time. Morrowind, World of Warcraft, Oblivion, Skyrim, even Elder Scrolls Online today. Making my own fun is something that I have a lot of fun with in various games that I play, if they're in any way sandboxy. And that includes Forza. Forza Horizon specifically. I do have Project Cars if I want to play a more traditional track racing game. But Forza with the open world, that world is my oyster. And it's the successor to Test Drive Unlimited 2, which was the successor to Test Drive Unlimited. Test Drive Unlimited 2 and Test Drive Unlimited. So, also, excuse me, no, going back too far. The Crew 2, The Crew, then Test Drive Unlimited 2, then Test Drive Unlimited. So anything with an open world, that world becomes my oyster. And I kind of make my own fun and stuff. So with how Shredder's Revenge went, I thought maybe Logan and I could, make our own fun with Forza in some way, shape, or form. Be like making fun of each other with cars, trying to do jumps and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's the sort of thing. This is the sort of thing where I guess, I didn't really say enough about what I was looking for with all of that. But that's what happened with that. I'd like to do I'd do another collab stream some other point later on, but it's got to be within the context of being a gamer first and a streamer second. So why don't we get to all these controllers that I have sitting around here? Actually, I guess I can't really take a break and then come back and then talk about the main topic because we kind of talked about it. So I'm a gamer first and a streamer second. That's also going to be why you're going to see less streaming from me overall. And most of the streaming I do is going to be like the same couple of games and, progression here and there, or just doing this or that. As I want to go through and experience the games on my own. So part of that means maybe doing less videos or less streaming, or just going back to videos that can be worked on whenever and then uploaded whenever. I mean, there's plenty of video essays channels out there nowadays that make these big documentary type things very, very infrequently and still do well as they maintain a certain level of quality to them and people enjoy the show every time. But my best social media platform right now is Instagram. I've been steadily growing on Instagram, and I have more followers than people I'm following, which is a first in a long time. And I'm doing that just with game screenshots, souping up my game screenshots from various games. So I didn't know there was a scene for that over on Instagram, but I guess there is. Not going to bother with Reels or anything, just straight up game screenshots. If you're there, you know what you're getting. Kind of like if you come over here, you're going to see me experimenting with various stuff or chatting with, fans or things along those lines. Let's get to the controllers. So this thing, the Xbox Series controllers, they have a knurled surface, which makes them a little too hard, so to speak, to hold for a long period of time. Plus, it'd be nice to have something fatter for my hands to grip around, not have to be so scrunched together. Picked up this silicone skin from Amazon. It even fits with the battery packs I use, so I can charge it with micro USB as well, independent of the controller without having to plug them in. So, yeah, those options available. So, yeah, I kind of like this setup here. Plus, it's got little things that go on top of the sticks and doesn't crash into the rubber and makes... So the reason why I went for a silicone grip for these controllers is because the Power A knockoffs have silicone-style grip. It's not hard plastic. I was like, oh, this is comfortable versus, the stock controllers. I was like, should I really prefer third-party, officially licensed Xbox controllers over this? So... this kind of softens up the official Xbox controllers, and I actually have a pair of similar kits like this coming in for the Xbone controllers, Xbox One. So might try them, might swap from this to the other to spread out the wear and tear. The other thing I want to do is use them as Bluetooth controllers for when I'm experimenting with stuff in the project area. I got enough Bluetooth nubs to make all the computers support Bluetooth, so we can do stuff with that. But Xbox controllers on PC speaks to a lot of where PC gaming has gone. I was talking with my dad about this because he was making fun of the original Xbox and video games in general. He's not fooling me. I mean, he had Pong machines and Atari back in the day, and I got him playing Mario Kart when I was growing up. He's not a total enemy of video games. He's just some self-righteous baby boomer. The world was better in the 60s and 70s. One of those things. Either way. He could actually take the time to try and understand my generation if he really wanted to. Boomer versus millennial doesn't have to be a meme. It's only a meme because he chooses to be that way. The end. Anyways, I really like how Xbox, I have a Power A Xbox controller. It's nice. I've been looking at first party soon, says Dan. So, yeah, I mean, the cool part with it, well, I've been even thinking of getting a PlayStation, a PS5 controller, but it doesn't have very good X input support. Whereas this thing is basically a good X input controller. Doesn't have good direct input support, though, which is why you would have one of these. Logitech F310. Piece of junk. Except on the back, it has a switch, which flips it between X input and direct input. I leave it in direct input all the time, because if I want X input, any Xbox controller is probably better. This thing, pretty decent for direct input, except for older games like what I've been looking at recently. You have to get a somewhat different feeling buttons in that case, but there's no rumble in this thing. So I've never been able to find a use for it. It's kind of one of those, when all else fails, use this controller. Either way, I've been fooling around with Xbox, or some of the new fancy tools you Zoomers have nowadays that I didn't have back in my day when I was 20-something. And, so Grand Theft Auto, I always had problems with the Grand Theft Auto games because of something that we didn't know until now. Let's wrap it up, throw it back in the drawer. This thing I will never have much use for unless nothing else is compatible. So, I'm contemporary to Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Never got to play San Andreas. I was busy getting everything going in my life when it came out. And next thing I knew, suddenly San Andreas is in the bargain bins. I'm like, is that game really in the bargain bins? So I'm contemporary to Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City. Now, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City, they have a unique coding problem where the game runs. It's almost like going back to the ancient DOS days with real mode, where the speed of your computer determined how fast the game ran. That's what it was called. That's where real mode and, turbo mode and other stuff was brought into play, and it's why 90s computers had a turbo button. Some of the really old DOS programs literally ran faster or slower depending on your processor. Well, somehow, some element of that came back for Grand Theft Auto games in the 2000s. So if your processor is too fast, it'll glitch out the entire game and screw everything up, like the gravity and the speed and everything. The way to do that is to use MSI Afterburner to cap the frame rate at 60 or 50 or 30, or if you want to be really, really strict about it. Otherwise, you're stuck using the frame limiter, which basically gives you the original PlayStation 2 experience, which if you have, look, the PC versions of the Grand Theft Auto games sold themselves on being much like PC gaming else in other periods of time since then. The PC versions of GTA 3 and Vice City sold themselves on being better experiences than what you got on PS2. It's just that simple, And I had at the time the Silver Bullet was able to play Vice City at above the original frame rate, but I was having problems with asset load-ins and stuff like that. Things were popping in and loading in very weirdly as I played the game, and I thought it was something I had to patch or something. No, combination of my system was a little too fast, and I was using old 2000s hard drives, so maybe the asset loading was too slow. Today, I was just driving around max speed where I used to have all the problems in Vice City, and capping it at 60 frames per second in my MSI Afterburner, lovely tool we have nowadays that we didn't have back in my day. Everything ran perfect. So, after poking around, that's where this controller comes into play. This is my Logitech Rumble Pad from college. Back in the days when PC controllers were these janky things with numbered buttons and stuff like that. It's obviously a PlayStation 2 knockoff. It's obviously a DualShock knockoff. The big reason why I went for this controller specifically is it has buttons instead of triggers for the L2, R2. This is a little more accurate. We're playing those old GTA games. I always remap the controllers anyways. I have a controller scheme that I actually like better than the one the game shipped with. So I'm going to have to set all my controls back to get it working again, and stuff like that. But I'm sure my muscle memory for Vice City will come back. The only problem with this controller is that the thing that the stick is in is square, so you can't roll it quite like you can a real PlayStation controller. But I actually do have a PS2 controller over here that I have hooked up to an adapter that puts it over to USB, and it doesn't pick up the analogs. I think that's... I also have a controller. I got to find it. Maybe it works on PC as well. I could take a controller. I could take a... I don't think that supports X input, though. It might do direct input. I'll have to check it. It's a third-party controller. But what am I talking about? I have it in the drawer. All right, where's it hiding? Let's see. That's the F310. PS3. Xbox 360, another one. Might need that. Sega Genesis. Here it is. It's got a little thing that it broadcasts to. If this is an X input, maybe I'll use this. This is like a bastard child of Xbox 360 and PS3. It's a PS3 controller by PowerA. It doesn't have 6-axis, but it blatantly is in the layout, and it has the look and feel of a 360 controller, except it knurls. It has knurled plastics. It's a lot lighter than the series controller, so it's not as comfortable. It's like holding a hammer from a hardware store. So, oh, no. Never mind. It doesn't have buttons on the bottom. It has triggers. Some of the newer controllers, the triggers don't actually register very well. All right. We'll put that away. We'll put this extra 360 controller away as well. So I guess this is it. This is back in my kit. Then it's a 20-year-old Logitech Rumble Pad. 20-year-old Logitech Rumble Pad, dual shock design with buttons on the bottom instead of triggers for PlayStation 2 type stuff. So this is what I'll play the Grand Theft Autos with. 3, Vice City, San Andreas. Just clean it off from sitting around collecting dust. Maybe if some of the plastic on rubbery plastic on this is starting to get a little weird. Although if they're a little sticky, it's better than them being slippery or something like that. Yeah, play some Vice City on this thing. It's got rumble on it. It's multiple levels of rumble, actually. And it's direct input. So the older games will work with it very, very well. And the buttons are numbered too, so you don't have to guess what's button 1, what's button 2, what's button 3, what's button 4. This should probably work for the 3D GTAs. Because I picked up San Andreas when I heard the special editions were coming out, and I was like, we don't know if those special editions are actually going to be better than what they replace, especially when it sounds like that Rockstar is going to delist the games. That got me suspicious, so I went and bought San Andreas and blew off the definitive editions. Foreshadowing! So, ow! Ugh! Darn soreness. So, yeah. It's just, but it's cool, you know, digging out this 20-year-old retro controller that still works. Just clean it up a bit with some alcohol. Clean it up a bit with some alcohol, shine it up a bit, and then play some Vice City with it. You probably have seen this over on my channel. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should show that on the channel right now. Plus, we got to talk about some other things, too, like Twitter getting nerfed. Let's go over to browser mode. Link this up to... Let's see, it doesn't have a link to it. Link it up to, not the live streaming thing. Let's link it up to the channel. So, I'm going to be doing more with community posts because Twitter is getting nerfed. Twitter is getting nerfed because Elon Musk and his slow burning of the company. Twitter is, you don't get algorithm exposure anymore if you don't buy Twitter Blue. It's a 100% pay to win over there now. It's stupid. It's like, it's Daily Motion all over again. It's Daily Motion. It's Daily Motion 2.0. Let's see. Lo-Fi Girls Live. Whatever. It's Daily Motion 2.0. So you have to buy the commercial product, or in some way be considered whatever, in order to get any algorithm, anything over on that platform. It's so stupid. So because of that, I'm changing a few things around. I'm going to do more with the blog, and also for stuff related to the channel and the interests I talk about on the channel, like PC hardware, commenting on other people's YouTube videos, etc. I'll be using community posts for that. YouTube right now does not have very good support for community posts. I think the algorithm only sends like one of them every 3 days or something. So I'm just going to let you know about this in advance if you want to check the community posts manually until YouTube catches up. But I really think YouTube needs to catch up, because if Facebook got their ass in gear, they would have something like this. Text updates, pictures with albums, video, streaming, all kinds of stuff. If Facebook ever got it together, they'd be the fiercest competitor. They'd be the evil empire of this industry. YouTube would actually be in second place behind them, both in terms of monthly active users, as well as how fleshed out many of their features are. Community posts are not very well fleshed out compared to text updates on a Facebook fan page. So, a lot of people, every couple of years, they say Facebook's dying, if Facebook was going to die, it would have been dead by now. Facebook is just suffering from some bad leadership. Really not much to it. They got billions of monthly active users, and they're totally the blue team in this industry. But they just can't get it together. They could get it together, they'd be a force to be reckoned with. But one of the things I'm missing, so my Twitter is just there to have a Twitter. I'll respond to people, and I'll have people find out about me through, being friendly to people in certain communities like retro gaming and stuff like that. But in terms of updates or talking or commenting on things, I'm going to make much heavier use of community posts for that. So we'll see how that works out. I found this too. Congratulations, you have Xbox points. I just want to play Forza. Because every time I log into Forza, I get a couple of the dings that, hey, redeem your free points because you started the game, etc. And of course, updates like when I got stuck home with post-COVID pneumonia. Oh yeah, I never did finish that story, did I? So I'm out this week because my doctor can't even see me until Friday. He's booked until Friday. So we're just going to do one visit to be cleared to return to work. Probably be much, much better by then. Probably won't need any more antibiotics because viral pneumonia doesn't respond to them anyway. So most we do is just treat the symptoms and don't give it to anybody else. Cleveland Clinic and some other health articles say I got to get much closer to symptom-free before I'm not contagious anymore. So we'll just go with that. Life isn't always neatly put in order and stuff along those lines. But yeah, I will be making much, much heavier use of community posts with Twitter getting nerfed. My blog is also going to take over where previously I would have, for off-platform commentary and stuff, I'll also do things over on my blog. So I bumped it over versus Linktree. Linktree, Instagram, Space Hay, and then Twitter's way over here. Twitter is going to get de-emphasized, and it's not a serious platform for me anymore. I'm just there. I just got the popcorn waiting for Elon Musk to slow burn the place to death. Because him buying Twitter was a leveraged buyout. So he's the vampire that now is going to probably suck the place dry like private equity normally does in order to try and make some return off of it. Anytime you have cocky business people that think, oh, if I was in charge, things would be much better. Now, look, I got the money. Watch it happen. Anytime you got people going around with that attitude, it's trouble waiting to happen. I'm sure Twitter's no exception here. Hey, look at this Vice City. Look at this Vice City thing here. 3% of the processor. I remember when this game first went to mobile and tablets and stuff like Vice City, a mobile game. Then, well, here we are. Skylake 6700K, 3% of the processor. Maybe it'll go up to 10%. The reason why it's 25% of the GPU is because I'm running the game in 1080p. In the original, 1080p 4.3, so 1440 by 1080. So there's a 4.3 1080p resolution that I'm using. I think it's 1440 by 1080 or something. So back in the day, I had a tube monitor. I would have ran this at 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768. And it would have been shining through a tube monitor anyways. So that would be why the use of the graphics card is scaled up a little more. Plus, in today's wonderful world of modern graphics drivers and NVIDIA having all these little eye candy things in their driver settings, I'm actually having the drivers force anti-aliasing and other more modern stuff into this game. One of the things too is use MSI Afterburner to cap the frame rate. That also applies to Grand Theft Auto 4, which stutters all over the place when today's computers can run it at 1,000 frames per second or something. So even Grand Theft Auto 4 on PC is affected by that to an extent. Here's Vice City, me just hooning around on the speedboat you get halfway through the game in cartoon 80s Miami. 10 gigs of RAM in use, probably from background processes more than this game. I think I only had like a gig of RAM when I played it the first time. The original Silver Bullet had 512 megs of RAM to start. That's how far back we're going with that stuff. 1 gig of VRAM in use. 25% utilization because I'm modernizing the image a little with more modern anti-aliasing than what came with the game. 3% of the processor, direct 3D 8. Unless it's like with Intel and there's a little emulation going on. That's why there's higher GPU use, but I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy how things change. But you know what? I would still look at that and not have it be a total eyesore. I'd still play this game. Matter of fact, I never beat it. Because of all the problems with asset loading and getting into Morrowind, I never did get around to finishing the game off. So now that I've got my controller back from my old setup back on the Silver Bullet. So how do I have 20-year-old save games? CD-ROM backups. I always wanted to have a CD burner in my computers going all the way back to the original HP so I could back up my data. A lot of times people don't and they lose stuff. This is one of the times I did. I couldn't save my Morrowind character from the hard drive crash in the mid-2000s, but I had backups of my Vice City saves from 2002, 2003. Grand Theft Auto 3, I think, is 2002. Let's see here. Ooh, Night Ride FM is going. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 3. I basically stopped playing this when I got Vice City, when Vice City came out. Let's see, the exchange, that was when I beat the game on the 20 right before Christmas. So this was Christmas break of 2002, coming home from college, beating the game at 21. That's like, yeah, I was nocturnal. I was a more night shifty guy in college. That's the exchange, beating the game. Then Rumpo Rampage after New Year's while I was out on semester break. Grand Theft Auto 3 on PC. I was modding the living crap out of the game too, because of Vice City out on PS2. When Vice City came out on PS2 first, then when Vice City came out on PS2 first, I basically modded GTA 3 to add motorcycles and a highway and stuff, try and make it more like Vice City until the PC version came out. Oh, look at this crap. Some of you Zoomers were babies when I played this game and made these save files. I just thought it was funny when I logged into the game and saw my 20-year-old save games. Matter of fact, if I play this game over again, I might just back up my saves just for the hell of it, just to keep those timestamps on them. Oh, man. Yeah, Christmas break. Playing Grand Theft Auto 3, kind of like I would have played Morrowind a year later. Yep. Dan says I never beat Vice City either. How do you even have those saves still, says Logan? CD-ROMs! After college, I made a backup of most of... I made a backup of... the Silver Bullet, much like my computers nowadays, had a dedicated data drive. So if I had to nuke the operating system, I would have files saved somewhere other than the C drive. 2002 would have been 7, says Dan. Logan, I think you were in diapers when I was playing this game, right? But let's see here. 2002. I was like, yep, I'm old. So I have these saves because they went onto a CD-ROM back. It would have been either 1 or 2, lol. Yeah, I would have had these games because I would have had a CD-ROM backup. It's probably good, by the way, it's probably a good thing there was no YouTube at the time. If I was trying to do YouTube in college, I wouldn't have graduated with honors. It would have distracted the hell out of me. Plus, a lot of the reason I got into YouTube was because I was an AV guy in college. So I did well in my classes, and then the fondness of remembering my AV days is what made me get into this stuff later. My college was behind the 8 ball on that kind of stuff. They didn't even embrace this kind of Web 2.0 video until years later. Let's see here. Yeah, look at that. So yeah, these went on to, I took a whole bunch of burnable CDs and backed everything up. And I still had those CDs when the hard drive crashed, like my documents, the other stuff. My MP3 collection at the time and stuff from iTunes. Yep. So this is one of the things I backed up. The Grand Theft Auto folders. I let a DVD burner line out. Well, that's why my main system has and will continue to have a Blu-ray burner. I may never get around to burning discs at 25 gigs a disc like I want to, but it's there. Plus, one big thing a good use I'm finding for optical media is emulators like PCSX2, where you digitize like a PS2 game and then you play it like a PC game in PCSX2. It delivers a better experience hardware-wise than the original PS2 hardware did. Oh, it's but yeah, 20-year-old save games. Technically heading towards 11 years too. 2023 now, but 20-year-old save games. Share these on Tyranny's Discord as well, and some other and Pebbles as well, and other folks whose Discords they've somehow convinced me to join and actually be involved with. 20-year-old save games, but yeah, I technically still have them over on the CD if my computer gets nuked. That's why backing up your data works. Too bad I didn't do this with my original Morrowind folder. Couldn't have done it with my Morrowind folder, though, because with Morrowind, you needed to back up the entire installation directory so your mods would translate over. And I had so many mods. Nowadays, one super mod makes most of them obsolete. But I piecemealed it together and used Tessamy to clean the mods. They wouldn't break half the spells in Morrowind. Like the Summon Dwemer thing never worked for me because my mods always broke the spell. So you could try to summon it, nothing would happen. Just look up, it's like Sesame Street, but with a T. Look up Tessamy. It used to be something you had to use with Morrowind to clean out mods. to make sure they didn't corrupt your save games. All those things you had back in the days before Test Nexus and the auto installers and things that keep your mods up to date for you. All these fancy programs you kids have nowadays. Yeah. 20-year-old Grand Theft Auto save games. It's almost as bad for Vice City. They just say 2003 with 2 saves from 2011 because I played a little more in 2011 before the layoffs. It's the Grand Theft Auto 3 ones, however, that are the most iconic here because Vice City just superseded this game. Grand Theft Auto 3 was like the rough draft for Vice City in so many ways. It was one of those games you picked up because it was cool and games hadn't really done that yet with the sandboxy city environment and stuff like that. But once Vice City came out and there was the 80s theme and your main character, Tommy Vercetti, had a lot of personality to him. It was like watching an 80s crime movie like Scarface or something like that. Now, that just, you wouldn't come back to GTA 3. Not for a sandboxy game. You'd want the better looking 80s game and stuff if you were going to sandbox around in the games if you weren't actually going to play them. Or if you had a bad day at work, you come home and you fire up a game, cheat yourself a bunch of weapons, and then go on a rampage until the police finally take you down. So, that kind of crap. But, yeah. I mean, yeah, that versus this. I mean, come on now. But, I mean, I'm telling you, this looked good back in 2003. It came out on PS2 first, so the PS2 folks had it. This thing keeps popping open. Yeah, it came out on PS3. Came out on PS3. Came out on PS2 first, so all the PS2 people were like, "We got Vice City, and you're still stuck with GTA 3." Ha 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 ha. And stuff like that. San Andreas had more of an orangey look to it. So, I mean, this is awesome. There needs to be, Grand Theft Auto 6, I hope, has something in common with Vice City. The GTA series, I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 with cartoon California has a nice bright environment and atmosphere, but there's just something about this and the 80s theme that made this game such a classic that is very, very missing and stuff. But yeah, that's so YouTube doesn't have very good support for community posts. The algorithms only send maybe one every 3 days, but yeah, check. I'll be talking about stuff. You might like some of the things I respond to. What I like about the community posts and why I believe it should be a baseline feature for everybody on the platform, the original YouTube channel design. Ow! Not again. Darn soreness. The original YouTube channel design had what was called a video blog section, which was basically this. You could put someone else's YouTube video in there, like what I did with this ancient viral clip about Clippy the paperclip and stuff like that. And then, of course, Xbox banning emulators, You could actually comment on other people's videos in that feature. It went away for the longest time when the profiles got redone. And now finally with the community posts, it's back. So I can do this with the blog as well. And one of the things with having a regular blog is that it goes to the search engines like a normal web page. You don't have this gatekeeper technology like what you have on YouTube and stuff that is determining whether your stuff goes anywhere. So with Twitter in eclipse, as Elon Musk slow burns it, I am doing more with Instagram, the blog, and community posts. So if you're looking for more updates in between videos or stuff like that, or me just opining on things, that's basically what I'm going to do with community posts. So it is what it is. It's kind of how YouTube works at this point. My blogs from 2012 need some updating and stuff, but yeah, updates and other stuff opining on. There'll be stuff here if there is stuff nowhere else as well. You could make it members only too, but let's not go paywalling crap. I want the system, I want the monetization of my channel to be more like tips and donations type thing. Although, I will say for anybody who's monetized on YouTube, tax-wise, YouTube revenue is considered royalties now. So even if you're below the minimum income, you still have to report it on your taxes. Which, I'm sure the IRS is enjoying the extra tax revenue they're getting from royalties for smaller channels. Let's see here. little something from Logan, but I'm just too far off to read the chat there. It's kind of weird right now, is if someone mentions you in their post, the notification doesn't show up in the all feed, only in the mentions feed, which is kind of annoying. Yeah, YouTube needs to work on some of this non-video stuff, but they have to, otherwise Facebook will kick their ass. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is loopy and lost in space and chasing after AI. If there was a hostile takeover at Facebook with people who want to make it into a competitor to YouTube and stuff like that, maybe leverage some more Instagram technology with Meta's portfolio and stuff like that, Facebook would be the evil empire that YouTube would be fighting against. It's like YouTube doesn't have the same feature set. It does sort of, but it's not as fleshed out. So YouTube's weaknesses would get exposed very, very quickly if Meta decided to get aggressive. Right now, it is Meta's incompetence that is keeping Facebook from taking over the world. They just don't handle their own stuff very well. And of course, some of my screenshots for Forza Horizon from Forza are ending up in here as well. Not all of them, though. Not all of them, though. It's mostly an Instagram thing. I'm really surprised at truncated screenshots. This is one of the few things I could use Twitter for as well, because Twitter will give you 1080p mode. You could zoom right in and see all the details on these things. So I might end up with Twitter just being a feed of screenshots, but they won't get picked up by the algorithms over there because I don't have Twitter Blue. And I'm not paying Elon Musk like a subscription fee. I'm not paying Elon Musk's brethren or whatever a subscription fee just to have tweets get picked up by the algorithm. I mean, even before this change rolled out, I wasn't getting very much algorithm traffic anyways. Plus, Twitter, MAUs, couple hundred mil versus YouTube being a bill platform. So is Facebook, by the way. No. Let me insert video again from new to oldest. Find it fun looking at old videos sometimes. Yeah, I basically hold down the page down button to get to the bottom of the channels. Fortunately, YouTube fixed it. It used to be bugged to where you would never hit the bottom of someone's channel, look at their oldest videos. But that's also one of the reasons why I have playlists of everything in chronological order from every single year. I don't know. Did I ever get around to 2022? I might have to check and get that over with. We are only in our 4th month of 2023. Yeah, there's some Forza screenshots in here. And stuff along. Some of them too. Cute little baby Xbox. Yeah. From backwards burnouts to backwards danger sign jumps. I've been tuning my alignment on the Rimac Nevera. I've heard the name said out loud now, so now I got to stop saying Rimac. The company's from Croatia, so I don't really know their pronunciation. I wish I would come back. They said they would a while ago. Nothing's happening. This is YouTube. They're a fat, bloated water buffalo of a bureaucracy. It took them like over a year just to get something resembling raids on Twitch. And even then they had to go back and tweak stuff because it didn't work as well right out of the bat. Oh, the electric Hummer. Yay. Now, the Rimac Nevera. Basically, my gimmick in Forza Horizon 5 is taking electric cars and seeing what I can do with them. Because, I mean, there's a bunch of motorheads in there, maybe some people that hate electric cars, and I'm over here like a nerd with these things. I mean, you're talking about one big gear that go 240 miles an hour in reverse. I do have the Koenigsegg Jesko, but the real fun I have in this game is from doing what I can with whatever electric cars are available and embarrassing the gassers. All these people that have. I also have some old-fashioned muscle cars and stuff like baby boomer type cars that I've been taking into online multiplayer. So passing people in a NASCAR car. So there was Lay Car, of course, for rally racing. DuckTales. DuckTales paint job. Drivatars are so much fun in Forza. You can get screenshots like this without getting creamed in multiplayer because you can actually pause the game. Hold up, Logan. I'm going to go into photo mode and snap a screenshot. Yeah. But that's his thing. The electric Lotus. This one, you put a 4-speed transmission on it, limits your backwards speed, but it's more like a race car for that kind of stuff. Problem is with electric cars, they're heavier because of the batteries. They handle like heavier cars. But, yeah. All right, so that's the situation with that. Why don't we go through the pile of controllers? Why don't we go through the pile of controllers that I have here and what's going on with it? So, Logitech Rumble Pad here. we got the Logitech Rumble Pad here. This was my controller for college. So before all this happened, before all the cool stuff we have nowadays became a thing, where there really is no such thing as a PC gaming controller anymore. Just grab an Xbox controller. They have the best compatibility because most games are X input. And you use Steam to configure any other stuff as well, support for other stuff as well. But there's so much crossover between Xbox and PC that we might as well just use the same controllers. Companies have found out, of course, from the Atari 5200, if you screw up a controller, you screw up the console. So, of course, we're going to have solid controllers for the Xbox. So, yeah, use Xbox controllers and a Bluetooth nub. Nothing to it. Nice and simple to hook up, and I really, really enjoy it, versus back in the olden days when PC gaming had its own controllers, and they were sad little knockoffs of whatever was contemporary at the time. So, I mentioned this before, but that my controller is contemporary to the PS2. At least PS2 had round things, so you could rotate your camera evenly like this instead of them being square like on this, where you're hitting the corners. So stupid. Why didn't Logitech think of this? But I'm telling you, the reason why I have this controller is because it was a huge improvement over what existed before. You've seen this maybe in some of my older tech videos, but I had a Radio Shack controller that used the old game port first. It had like one Nintendo 64 style thumbstick in the upper left, turbo buttons and stuff for the controls, and it was like an Atari Jaguar controller, a blocky piece of crap. But it was the only thing I could get because the idea of using console controllers on a PC was a completely foreign concept back then. Started with that, then I got sick of it, and I wanted something USB. So I got a Logitech Wingman Action Pad. I have some videos about too many controllers, and I think where I showcase these things. Oh, darn pneumonia, you suck! Darn it. Yeah, sometimes when I cough, I get sore all over from too much coughing. Yeah. So I got the Logitech Wingman Action Pad. You can actually look this up by Googling an image of it or something, see what it used to look like. That thing was like a boomerang with cheap plastic thing on top that broke off. Then I upgraded to the Logitech Wingman Rumble Pad, which had rumble in it and two sticks, which would break off, and horrible. The PlayStation 2 had a nice standard with DualShock, and it was right there, waiting to be copied and knocked off, and nobody was doing, not even Logitech at the time. They were challenging Klipsch with the Logitech Z560 to challenge Klipsch Pro Media for computer speakers. No, but not with controllers. And then this came out. Logitech Rumble Pad. The Logitech Rumble Pad. This is what it's called, right? Yes. Logitech Rumble Pad. Finally, a decent PlayStation-y looking controller, although the hat switch reminds me of something from a 360 controller, in retrospect. This is what I played Grand Theft. I played Grand Theft Auto on the older, terrible McDonald's toy Logitech controllers too. Yeah. But this was the definitive controller for me playing Grand Theft Auto in college. And it's still the definitive controller, because newer controller. So we showed the F402, whatever it is, earlier. They're still on sale at Target. I saw it on sale for like $15 at Target. I'm like, well, I wonder why that's not selling. It has triggers instead of buttons. So it's not totally a perfect representation of what we had with DualShock, which had two sets of buttons, no triggers yet. DualShock 3 on the PS3 was where you started getting your triggers, which were cool for like analog controls for left and right. Also, don't forget the Xbox 360, which did it as well. Little controllers for left and right, which are fun in like driving and shooting games. You pull a trigger to shoot the gun instead of hitting a button. So, lots of cool things that are coming out at the time the world was getting razzle-dazzled by the Wii and its motion controls. Hey, I get Grandma playing bowling now. Yay, I finally got Grandma playing video games. Oh crap, she broke the TV. Yeah, sound off in the chat if you want. I'm just trying to find stuff to talk about. No. Sound off in the chat if you want. I'm just saying stuff in the meantime to keep things getting too boring. But yeah, so this thing, bringing it back to finish Vice City and play San Andreas and GTA 3. It's Probably the best controller for that specific period in history. But I'm also looking at Xbox 360. Criminally underused controllers here. These things are mint. The reason why I have these is because when the Xbox One came out, I went looking for Xbox 360 controllers on clearance because I had finally warmed up to the idea of using console controllers on a computer. As much as I'm saying right now that it was stupid that PC gaming controllers were stupid back in the 2000s and whatnot, now this is pretty solid. Matter of fact, this is actually more solid feeling than the DualShock that it was based on. It's solid, it's much heavier, much more solid in many, many ways. It feels like a much sturdier controller than what it was copying on the PS2. So in some ways, this actually was an improvement. But this was a real deal breaker, though. Not being able to spin the camera like that, no thanks. But the Logitech Wingman Action and Rumble pads I was using before I got this didn't have where you could push the stick to hit a button. They didn't have that. It was just like Nintendo 64 type thumbsticks. But so I was not really warmed up to the idea of using a console controller on a computer yet because of how things had gone with this thing. You could get, there were some other brands out there too that were selling controllers. The quality of PC controllers, though, was all over the map. I mean, I have this. I also had a similar controller that used an auto-retracting ribbon cable for its USB that would glitch out the controller if it ever sprung back all at once. And then after a couple of years, the plastic started to have chemical issues and got all sticky. It was kind of a rubbery plastic to make it more comfortable, but the rubbery component would break down and turn it into a sticky mess that no amount of cleaning would actually keep clean. It would keep getting sticky over and over and over again because chemical changes in the plastic. So I wound up throwing, and then the button stuck and I threw it out. Useless. Waste of money. This thing, though, has just kept on trucking along, and even today I'm still going to use it for GTA. Just got to remap all my controllers. But in the 2000s, I started hearing, particularly on Ret Super A and other channels making fun of Let's Players, about people playing with 360 controllers on PC. And I was like, how cheap. A 360 controller? Just get a PC controller. There's solid options out there. Don't be lazy and just grab the controller from your Xbox. When the Xbox One came out, and I was like, I don't want to mess with wireless crap. I'm going to go to Walmart, find the 360 controllers they couldn't sell because they were wired, because everybody's obsessed with wireless, and I'm going to pick them up. So I have two of these 360 controllers, mint, almost never used, because I wound up getting PowerA Xbox One controllers later that were wired. So and then of course I got over it. I don't want to put batteries in the controller or have to charge it up. Micro USB. It took me a while to warm up to the technology. But there you go. Micro USB, little PowerA battery pack goes in there. I don't even think it's lithium ion. I think it's nickel metal hydride. The older chemical, so not the one with the big history of causing lots of fires. So, or, it dies more and more just from age as opposed to using the battery and stuff like that. Let's see here. I have it in the X-Bone controllers. Might be able to read that too. Get the orange one out of here. Does it actually say what it is? Might be nickel cadmium as well. We need to make the screen really bright. Where's Notepad? Using Notepad to... There we go. Let's see here. PowerA. Do not recharge battery pack. Nickel metal hydride. It's on the recycle symbol. All right. There we go. There we go. Stop getting bleached out like that. Nickel metal hydride was actually used in laptops in the 90s before lithium ion took off. It's now used today for things like rechargeable AA's and the like. Let's see. Put this in here. Yeah, like this. Then the replacement plate for the 360 controller, or for the X-Bone controller, goes over it. These are getting little silicone kits tomorrow. So this is the last night of... Of course, I do consider X-Bone controllers to be more comfortable because they don't have the knurled plastic like the series controllers do. So they stay cooler for longer. They don't quite feel as solid, but I'm going to get silicone skins for these too and make them more comfy, like and stuff like that. Even the 360 controller was a bit more comfortable than its successor in that respect. Yeah, Xbox 360. So I didn't want to mess with batteries and stuff like that. So I went out and picked up 360 controllers. Then I found out about PowerA's wired Xbone controllers and barely used these. So why do I have 360 controllers nowadays? I could sell these and probably make quite a bit of money because they're mints, except for the squeaky trigger because I've barely used it. But I'm actually going to keep these around. Why? Grand Theft Auto 4. I got GTA 4 working on PC. Some similar tricks to GTA 3. Never played Grand Theft Auto 4. I had a console version on PS3, which was a soupy disaster compared to what I had on PC at the time. So I was like, I didn't want to keep looking at that eyesore. But now, I'm getting curious about it. The reason why I didn't get the PC version was because of all the 2000s era DRM that was on it. There's like Securom or whatever it was. It was a DRM disaster. 2000s PC gaming, the DRM mess of the 2000s is something I do not miss, and I'm glad it's gone. But there's been some re-releases, particularly with the shutdown of games for Windows Live where the DRM was stripped out. Steam is now the DRM for it, so all that invasive crap like Star Force and other garbage from the 2000s has been stripped out of the games, and you can actually use them without them getting crippled and messed up like back in the day. So I actually picked up GTA 4 Complete Edition in a Steam sale, and it sat around forever. And now, well, I finally play through the story with Nico Bellic and the rest of them with a proper 360 controller since the game was contemporary to. I did play it on PS3, but 360 is a console I've come to appreciate a little more, although I was driven far, far away from it back in the day due to Red Ring of Death. But 360 era games, I think, I could play it on this. It's basically the same thing, but way newer and way more comfortable. But just to get authentic about it, why not just take this for a spin? Of course, I'm probably going to end up getting rid of these anyways, because, I mean, this is just such a huge upgrade over this. Yeah, this was an iconic controller for its time, but it's really worth it for me to actually put wear and tear on these things when I could sell them in like new condition to some locals around here. Maybe some people that are actually building a retro setup with an old 360 they bought or something, and the controllers are worn because they were actually used. These things are the two of them I have, near mint. No wear and tear of any kind because I barely used them. They mostly sat around. And I don't know if I want to put wear and tear on them when this isn't all that different. Maybe I'll play a few games or something that. It's just something about, decking out a contemporary series controller with something like this. More comfortable thumbsticks, silicone grip. It's bigger for people with bigger hands and stuff like that. I don't know. And it made me want to upgrade the Xbone controllers as well. I don't know if I can use these things without souping them up anymore. And then there's this thing. I don't think I can actually upgrade this. I think it has to be what it is because of what it is. I notice it more, though, on series controllers, whatever, on newer Xbox controllers and whatnot with this type of thing. Either way. So that's the thing. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, but I do want to get rid of a lot of stuff. I might even get out of console gaming because I've been learning about some of the gotchas that the hardware has. And I think we've seen some of the gotchas lately as well, with Nintendo shutting down the Wii U's digital storefront, basically handing emulation a huge win and stuff like that. I don't think, and then I look at on the Sony side of things, because I'm looking at like Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories, getting around to playing those games. They didn't have PC releases. So do I want to put the PS2 versions or PCSX2 and try and modernize the experience versus the original hardware? Because my original PS2 is starting to have laser issues, so I might have to replace the laser in it. And I'm the original owner of it. It's just a PS2 Slim from that era. It's PS2 Slim from that era that just the laser's wearing out, even though I've barely used it. Happens with CD players, so I imagine it would happen with those things too. Laser assemblies are sold all over the place, so I can just put one in and fix it. But I have more than enough of a background to do that too. But for what? An eyesore of graphics on original PS2 hardware. Many times it wasn't even made for widescreen. And when you started it up, you had to hold down buttons on the controller in order for it to even go into progressive scan mode instead of interlacing. That's how far back we're going, when a DVD player was something new and exciting and probably cost a lot more than, stuff along those lines. It's a silent aging of technology. I mean, It's hard to believe that this thing's a 20-year-old controller. It's as old. It's probably older than some of the young folks I've been working with who've been coming into the warehouse lately. We got guys that are 19. We got guys that are 19 coming in. You can come in at 18 because of the heavy equipment. You can't come in before 18. But we have some 19-year-old guys coming in. This controller is older than they are. Just bizarre. Still getting used to being old enough to be able to say that, especially with something so innocuous as a Logitech Rumble Pad. Doesn't even look all that old, except for the PS4 and the PS5 controllers look nothing like their DualShock ancestors. I mean, this could pass for a PS3 controller with a wire on it, but no, this thing's older than some of the folks I've worked with. Stuff like that. It's still fine. I mean, I haven't hardly used it in 20 years. Just got to clean it up a bit because it's been sitting for so long. But Logitech, good old Logitech. But no, I went looking on PlayStation to see how the PlayStation libraries work, PS3 versus PS4 versus PS5. If I bought, for example, Liberty City Stories as a PS2 classic on PS3, now I'm at the mercy of however long the PS3 lasts, stuff like that. PCSX2, where you digitize an old PS2 disc and then emulate it on PC, you don't have that hardware lock, so to speak, just keep an optical drive around for digitizing discs and hope there isn't a scratch on it that keeps it from going through. Then you just hook up to the disk image file and run the game that way. You know, it's really looking bad. It just seems like console manufacturers, even Nintendo, don't seem to understand why Steam has been so successful. Steam is as successful as it is because it's a steady player. You don't have to worry about your games getting locked behind something. It is such an established, steady player at this point that you have to take it seriously and consider the way Steam does things to be prescriptive for how to have digital ownership of video games. Of course, I have some games on Xbox, like the Forza Horizon games, but that's because the Steam versions usually aren't as good. They don't perform as well either. But why don't these people understand? This is why people are seeking out retro games. This is why people are going to turn emulators, because they want to be able to have a copy of something and know that that's going to work. Newer games after PS2 might not have that luxury with all the updates and patches. If I reinstalled Test Drive Unlimited 2 off of my own PC CD-ROMs, which I'm not going to get the Casino DLC back because that's gone, will I even be able to update the game to the latest patch? Atari's been sold. The Atari assets of Eden Games and stuff like that have been sold off. I don't know if I could even update my game to the latest version. And this is going to plague console games as well. If there was a day one patch, so your CD version of a game won't even give you... Imagine that, you know? Imagine trying to take like an Xbox game of some sort that we have today or in recent years. The only way you can play it X amount of decades down the road is to play a horrible, buggy release day version that was released badly on purpose because they knew they could send a patch. But you have no way of getting that patch to update the game anymore. We're so screwed. You know, this whole you don't really own what you supposedly own thing is going to bite us hard in the years to come. It really is. Ugh. So, for some classic or more older classic games, since I've seen PCSX2 basically make PS2 games look kind of like PC games with the way it renders them, and you can upgrade the performance from the original PlayStation 2. I'm thinking of actually getting the PlayStation 2 version of those games, digitizing them, and just emulating them through PCSX2 instead of bothering with the original hardware. Consoles just are synonymous with, you know, you're not a steady player, so to speak. On PC, I have 20-year-old save games and 20-year-old controllers, which I'm finding use for, again, decades later. Consoles don't have that kind of longevity. If I look in my Steam library, I don't have it open, I'll find Psychonauts, which is a game from the early 2000s. Can buy it and play it and have fun with it on PC all these years later. I got Brutal Legend, PS3 era game. Works fine. Play it with an Xbox controller. Probably 360 controller would be best for it. Although, I don't know. Still think I might just get rid of the 360 controllers and just use these all the time. In a way, though, the development of PC gaming is very much in the direction of becoming the ultimate console. More so. And you can put your library of games on all kinds of hardware. Some of your games will play on some devices more than others. Mobile has this too, but it's a bit more monetized, a bit more janky compared to the PC counterpart. But especially how Nintendo has been behaving lately, with how screwy Nintendo's been and how old-fashioned and out of touch they've been. I may just say, you know what, I think I can ignore Mario games the rest of my life, just stay on PC all the time and not need consoles anymore. Just emulate a few things here and there. The Tech Syndicate answer to that. I remember that video where Logan from Tech Syndicate was like, oh yeah, they got all these wonderful controllers on the consoles these days, and I get them all working on my PC. What's this world coming to? But that's the thing with PCs. You have more control. The consumer has more choice and more control over their ability to enjoy the content that they've picked up over the years than they do on consoles, where optical drive stops working. And hey, what do you know? It's not a real optical drive. It's a laser array, because the drive mechanism, despite looking like something like a CD-ROM drive in a computer, was actually something proprietary. Oops. Or some screwy engineering issue, like the eject button in Nintendo Wii is eventually going to break. And you have to surface solder it back on in order to get your game working again, and maybe engineer away the stress that pushing the button causes so your Wii doesn't stop working. Like, stupid little gotchas. And how about the batteries, where they go dead and your console gets bricked or the motherboard gets damaged, like the Xbox battery issue? We're finding all these gotchas in retro consoles. It's really starting to, and we thought, my generation, we thought that that console belts would be the problem. The belt would dry out on like a 360 or PS2 or something, and then that would break the console. It'd be annoying to have to put a new belt in. But we've had things like laser arrays and other stuff. That's been a problem too. Yeah. Amazing. But we were correct that some of these newer consoles were going to have longevity issues. But if the consoles aren't reliable in the long run, especially when I'm talking about playing games I've had for 20 years again, I never did beat Vice City. Maybe I should now that I have the whole setup back together and it runs better than my original Silver Bullet setup did. All this, it runs better than what I had 20 years ago. Maybe I should make up for some lost time here. Maybe finally get around to playing San Andreas with this thing. Customize the controls and everything. Who cares what the PS2 had? I want the PC experience. It's crazy. And I think that's the lesson that millennial gamers and probably Gen X gamers as well, those for folks a little older than us, I think that's a lesson that us millennial and Gen X gamers have learned over the years, is that never assume that something's gone just because it's old. We have re-releases, remakes, and retro. 3 R's, basically. You can never assume that just because something's older, that it, won't be more of a thing here, that it'll never be a thing again. This does not support X input, which is the Xbox 360 and later way that, things come in for that computers receive stuff from game controllers. This is the older direct input from DirectX, the predecessor. When I replaced this because it didn't support X input, newer games were switching to that. That's why I got that Logitech F3, whatever it was. That's why I found out it didn't have Rumble, and then I got a 360 controller. But never thought I'd want to use this again, except buttons instead of triggers. So this thing, it's been sitting for decades. Now I have a reason to use it again. It's crazy. I suppose if this broke, I would use the Logitech F1 and just set it to direct input. It is a compatibility controller for that specific purpose, and then just use the triggers as buttons. You can do that. if you set it to direct input with the switch on the bottom. Let's use the real deal with some rumble first, though. And, of course, maybe try the 360 controller for GTA 4. Windows is pretty versatile with that kind of stuff these days. Yeah. So you can never really say that you've said goodbye to your old games. I don't know how many more times my generation, maybe even the Zoomers too, if they've toyed with emulation, played some retro stuff, and then came back to it later. Now, my generation should have taught us, if probably Gen X too, that you're never really gone from the stuff that you liked playing when you were a lot younger. Video games are like movies. You watch them at one point, maybe later on you're going to want to watch them again. But you never really say goodbye to them. It's kind of like part of who you are and part of what you like and enjoy. You know? Some things change over the years, like fancy stuff available for controllers, and PC gaming has so much better controllers than the janky PC gaming specific controllers of yesteryear. So many more better options available than when I was younger. But sometimes you got to go retro to get a good experience here. So, when you folks see me disappear for a bit or only do videos because chat streams become more and more rare, because I'll be launching commentary style videos where I talk about specific topics in a short video instead of trying to shoehorn that into a chat stream. Chat streams are going to get relegated to just talking with folks and responding to whoever's in chat. People watch them after the fact, but people do watch these after the fact. Never understood why, but they do. The views go up after these things post. The algorithm does pass them around a little. YouTube culture, though, is not very in tune with this idea of watching streams after the fact just yet. This might become more of a thing in later years as people become more accustomed to this, if YouTube can put a dent in Twitch culture and how it makes people think of live streaming. But, yeah. I'm a gamer first and a streamer second. I want my gaming experiences to be what they've been all my life. I don't want streaming to bastardize them. So, yeah, sure, I can get back into playing Vice City now that I've dug my controller out. And have a nice, convenient way of setting it all up. But I probably won't stream it. I want to have that experience with the game on my own, like I would have had back in that game's day, and finish it off. Got my save games, I got all the hidden packages, got most of the story done. I think I'm almost done with the game, actually. So, but that's it. Same thing with new games I buy as well. Game streams on here are going to be more focused than, oh, I'm playing this game today, and I've never played it before. No. There is no substitute for having the real gaming experience with a new game. If I'm going to in any way stream something that I haven't already had that initial experience with, it's going to be because I deliberately chose to give that experience up. And I can't imagine a lot of times where that's actually going to happen. A little after midnight here at the Geek House, because I can still stay up this late at night, but I'm not going to make a habit of it. Doc clears me to return to work on Friday. I'll be back Monday, so I am not staying on these night shifty hours. But we can get into weekend mode for a little longer than usual. Have a good night, everybody. Till next time, this is Multimedia J, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.